And that guy. Oh.
It's nice when like people commit to a dark mood and like hold it.
Yeah.
I feel like every single movie these days is just like, oh, I don't care what I'm talking about anymore.
Here we go.
So sick. The creativity with like how the actions and like the environment flow into like cinematic setups is so good.
Then on top of that, it's like it all looks very realistic. I love the close-ups of their eyes too, because it's like there's so much life in them, and yet it's CG. Like, I momentarily think that did they actually just cut away to like footage? But it's like no.
And eyes are so hard to do with CG too, because like the eye's not actually round. It has like a lens on top of your iris that distorts your iris, and there's like water layers on top of it, then all the flesh moving around on top of that.
It just gets cool. So they walk into a hole where cool stuff's happening.
What a good idea for a shot in a sequence.
This is actually sick.
Right? Right? Now,
because they can actually have the blood being emissive, and that's
your iris, and there's like water layers on top of it, then all the flesh moving around on top of that.
it just gets cool. So they walk into a hole where cool stuff's happening.
What a good idea for a shot in a sequence.
This is actually sick.
right? Right? Now,
because they can actually have the blood being emissive, and I was like, why is it so dark? And now I'm like, oh, it's because of the glowing blood, which is seemingly doing a lot of work lighting the scene.
By the way, that effect, you couldn't do that until recently with rendering packages. I mean, when I say recent, I mean like within the past 10 years. In a rendering system, you know, for a long time, you couldn't have things like textures and liquid and everything emit light altogether. Usually you'd have to have like specific light objects emit light. Yeah. And even in video games now, you can't really render a scene like this.
Yeah, I mean, you can get pretty close with like Lumen now, but even still, it's not going to be on this level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a great sequence that really just like leverages modern CGI.
I feel like we're going to get some magic guys here, like some priests.
Oh, time for the box. What do they got in there? A priest. Brought along just so he could cast a spell. So cool.
yes.
Love
that
it.
shot right there is like...
Now it's everything's just frozen, and the volumetrics are frozen, and the light is frozen. Like, once again, an impossible thing to do in real life. I love how the light of the muzzle flash is creating volumetric light through the smoke.
Brilliant. It's a shame that they only dedicated one episode in this show to Warhammer.
I kind of feel the same way. They should Syama Peterson needs to be working with the whole team, just making Warhammer stuff.
We can talk about the VFX all over the place here. Sweet sims, sweet volumetrics, great layout, shot composition, motion editing, animation, blah, blah, blah. But like ultimately, it's just so cool seeing something like this that just, it holds a tone and it doesn't like break the mood. And I'm so sick of most movies breaking the mood.
You know the only thing more powerful than a Colonial Space Marine? Colonial Squarespace Marine. And Squarespace is the sponsor of today's video. There's a lot of scenarios in this galaxy where having a website can be pretty important, but building a website, especially if you want advanced features, can be kind of complicated and daunting and time-consuming, and that's where Squarespace comes in. Purchase, and of course you can also use Core.
Movie last year, what do you think it was?
Deadpool versus Wolverine.
Okay, we have a lot of amazing stuff to look at today, but I just have to ask you, what was the most expensive movie last year. What do you think it was?
Deadpool versus Wolverine.
That was $200 million.
Really?
Was that not Megalopolis?
Yes.
No! You guys haven't seen it? It's called Red One. Jeff Bezos made it.
Oh!
Who's with Red? Reach!
This is about Santa Claus, and he's high tech, and he gets kidnapped. By the way, and even before we start watching this, Amazon Prime, worst streaming service ever. Like, what is this? Like, wiggle the mouse. My TV is not a phone. Like, why are you putting these big buttons in the middle of the screen? Like, put them in the corner like a decent person.
That's a great point.
Get those widgets out of my sight.
Be gone, widgets. So this is a $250 million movie, huh? This does not look like $250 million worth of CGI.
Well,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
some wacky stuff here. But every scene is like a CGI fest.
Whoa.
That was cool, a little
That was
portal.
cool. So now they're actually in the North Pole where there's mountains, even though the North Pole is in the middle of an ocean.
Wait a minute.
And what, you gonna tell me Santa's not real? There's so many CG rocks in this shot.
Man.
And I'm not even talking about the one on the snowmobile.
I was gonna say, physical danger doesn't really work when it's so CGI heavy. Like, I'm gonna get crushed by this avalanche. It's like, no, you're not.
When he runs across the roof, it's like, all right, it's green screen, but then there's a takeover, but there's like a weird uncanniness to the takeover.
Yeah.
Like this shot, yeah, it was actually probably CG the whole time.
Well, it's also got the weird like motion blur thing going on. I don't know how to describe it.
It kind of feels like it wasn't rendered in like a physical-based renderer.
That's the guy we're looking for. The Carmanians are a security detail.
That matte painting beach in the
So
background.
first off, yeah, I was watching this scene and I was just like, wait, why didn't you just film it on a cool island beach, guys?
Yeah.
Like, where are you filming this? Because it looks like you have a pretty big spot to film, but like, then why is everything replaced in the background?
They just got that weird light wrap where like everything light wraps, including the dark things.
It's Christmas. So in the Yuletide spirit, I'm gonna say it one more time.
Oh.
Actually,
That's
wait,
pretty cool, actually.
whoa.
The big footprints right beside him is pretty good.
Yeah.
The contact with the sand is also really nice. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Wait, what?
You know what's funny? It's cartoon. It's got some RRR going for it a little
Got
bit.
a little bit of RR. Oh, I was just saying, the one really nice shot was the first reveal over the guy's shoulders to show the tiny rock standing
Yes,
there.
that was
Like,
great.
That was a very, very well done shot and made him truly look minuscule.
Dwayne the Pebble Johnson.
I know, that was the pebble shot.
Do you think that was a motion control shot for when they're looking down at him?
I think it was. I don't think they just winged it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see that tiny CGI rock that goes like, and then perfectly goes back to his A pose?
Wait, what?
Watch the CG rock. Like at the very end, he goes basically to A pose. Watch this. There's one scene that I kind of thought was sweet, and it's the very end of the movie. So Santa's been saved, and
Yay.
it's the scene where we get to see how Santa actually delivers all the toys on Christmas.
This is a cool one-er. Ah, that's how you can carry all the presents. Yeah, this is pretty sick, actually. There's like Some pretty solid creativity going into this sequence.
I was like, this is fun now. This is like,
Yeah.
I'm down with this.
I'm down with this
it's
too.
so silly.
Like, if you're gonna have all this money for all this CGI, like, you have to be creative and fun with it. You can't just do like the tropes and the cliches.
It's like, this is fun. It's silly. I just feel like the movie would have been a lot better with even more of this.
I got these clips from a film called Twilight of the Warriors Walled In. Maybe you've heard of it. If you haven't, it's really pretty dang good. And these guys have never heard of it. And they're about to see some guy get smashed.
More of this.
I got these clips from a film called Twilight of the Warriors Walled In. Maybe you've heard of it. If you haven't, it's really pretty dang good. And these guys have never heard of it. And they're about to see some guy get smashed. Basically, it's a dude meets Tekken characters in Kowloon City, and it's so cool.
Ooh.
The mad dog.
Oh, and by the way, this guy uses chi power to fight. That's why he uses two fingers, because he's got chi power.
Yeah, VFX.
Yeah, they had to comp out the pad they landed on.
The bus fall is a good example of what this movie does so well, where it takes stunts and it combines it with visual effects to make the stunts hit. Where you have guys landing on pads, but you paint out the pads, or they're on wires, but you paint out the wires. But it's one thing just to paint out a wire. It's another thing to like bring it all together into a shot.
Yeah, it's like very CGI though. Like you can, it's like, when I watched it, it was like the most comped shot I've seen in the sequence.
Yeah, it's like I can tell there's some comping going.
They're just starting. They're just warming up. He's got to get away. Oh, a barber shop. I know. I'll take this old man hostage. But is that an old man, or just a warrior in his twilight? Yes. So good. This movie looks so good.
It's funny.
Look how
It's
cool
funny.
this dude is.
Okay, I get the vibe now.
Because like right there, that's visual effects, right? You know, that guy didn't just get punched that hard. So he's on wires, but not just that. There's pads on the floor and the wall in the shot. And it's the power of paint outs. Like painting things out in visual effects like transformed stunt work and let people do things that you could never do before.
Wow. That's
So
a very.
that's a comp right there.
That's really good. That's
really good.
That's way better than that bus shot. Wow.
Okay.
But you can see the stuff falling is real. I guess the couch is real. But great example of like putting all your stunt rigging tools and your pads there to keep the actor safe. And then using visual effects to take all that out, but you get to keep the real human impact, which is why we're here in the first place, right?
Oh my god!
Actor safe, and then using visual effects to take all that out, but you get to keep the real human impact, which is why we're here in the first place, right?
Oh my god!
So good.
Wait, I just want to watch that on a loop.
Dude, that is the best way to beat someone up. All together now. Heave.
What's crazy here is that like the shadow from him and all the other guys is very clearly there.
Yeah.
So are we seeing an in-camera shot?
This is guesswork, but here's what I think they did to get this shot. So the guy's on wires, lifting him up and down, flopping himself into what I think is just a pad on the ground. And it's probably a really soft, spongy pad, so he can really commit, but it also kind of like gives the impression of his face like going into it a little bit. But then they have the challenge of the whole lighting and the shadow on the ground.
That looks more like compositing to me. I'm willing to bet they extracted the shadow from on top of the mat.
Possibly. If we pause and look, you can see a line.
Yeah,
in
which
the
is why I
shadow there.
think if it was a CG shadow, you wouldn't have that line.
Another thing too is I would bet that this was shot at a really high frame rate, not for slow motion, but so that they could actually have it be sped up a little bit, and they could change how much it's sped up throughout the shot. You know, like you're at like kind of sped up and then fast right before it hits the ground, then slow it down. Impact, then speed it up a little bit more, and then fast right at the end, and boom, slow it down. And so I think they're doing just a little bit of that as well to really make those impacts hit. They probably made that sound.
Dude, Thor's pickaxe. I love their commitment to just being like, yes, we're just gonna have wires everywhere because we know we can remove them. Contrast that with what we see so often with Marvel movies where they do the wire work, but then they replace all of it. And it's just used as inspiration more than anything.
Wow.
Love it. You can see the stunt guys who are probably in the scene are the ones pulling the bike too, because they're wearing the costumes.
Oh my God.
So this whole city set here, that's ground level that they're on right now. The ground is like a few inches right below that.
Okay. Because that means everything below that is added.
Yeah, it's all CG set extension.
Yeah, so I feel like so much of what we've been seeing is a lot of really creative compositing, but now we're looking at something that is legitimately like created.
Right.
That's sick. Holy, that's sweet. Hold on, that's the super matte painting where they film it and then they actually make the frame even wider by just literally zooming out a little bit.
Dude, that's some Ian Hubert type stuff.
Yes, that's actually really creative. Wow.
What do you think's going to happen?
They're gonna do it. They're gonna show them how the boys slam. Our
Dude, the
boys.
Smash Brothers are back, baby. Yes!
Smash Bros are back.
There's more. There's a lot more than just those fight scenes.
I bet.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job with this. Like the actors feel like they're really doing the fights, and they are doing a lot of the fighting, but like also the choice of shots, when to go in for like the expressions, like to show the emotions of the fighters. It's just so well done. And yeah, these guys are super physical in these scenes too.
This is dope, man.
Sweet. What a cool movie. The OK Go music videos. They're all great. They're all really cool. We're gonna watch their latest one. It came out this morning. However, it's only gonna be on our website version of this cut because we can't play music videos on YouTube. So head over there if you wanna watch it.
There's so many like action films that we don't get to see because they're a foreign action film or they're kind of like an indie movie, like straight to DVD kind of thing. But I know there's just some crazy effects in some of those films. So please, if you are aware of any crazy effect sequences in some like unknown action film or even semi-known action film, please leave a comment down below. Bye everybody.
See you later.
Bye.
What? That shot there gives me serious Neil Breen vibes.
It's a little funky.
What? This is not real. This is wild. This is actually wild.
This is your closing bell.
Megalopolis is maybe one of the most baffling big budget movies ever. It's like a cinematic fever dream. I watched it and I'm still confused. This movie cost $150 million to make, and as of today, it has made approximately $14 million back.
I've heard about this movie, but I've not seen it. Nico, have you seen this movie?
No, but it sounds like a movie I'd actually really enjoy.
I really think you will. Megalopolis was the sole vision of director Francis Ford Coppola, who brought us such classics as The Godfather. He did Apocalypse Now as well. And he also did Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, he did Dracula?
Francis Ford Coppola, he wanted to make this movie for a very long time. He wanted creative control over this baby. And he had it. And you can tell he had it, right?
And he also fired his effects team
Wait, what?
It's true. He fired the entire visual effects department. Fun fact, he also fired the entire visual effects team on Dracula.
Yep. Yeah, so this is the second time on Megalopolis.
It's a thing. It's a trend.
When the entire VFX department was fired, Francis Ford Coppola ended up hiring his nephew.
Nicolas Cage.
How did you burn?
Jesse James Chisholm, I think it is. Which just on paper is really funny with all the nephew VFX jokes that we've made on this couch over the years.
They should have hired real nephews to do the effects.
That said, it's not as funny in real life because he is a very established VFX supervisor for Marvel, but just on paper, it's hilarious to me. Francis Ford Coppola has never had a movie this reliant on visual effects before.
Really?
Yeah, so this was, I don't want to say out of his field of knowledge. I don't know how much he knows about visual effects in particular, but the fact that he's firing an entire visual effects team is a little curious in that regard. And the idea behind the visual effects on this movie in particular is what they're deeming poetic realism.
Okay.
Right? The idea being the images lean more towards the graphic than they do the photoreal. But that also affords you the ability to kind of just say, oh no, I meant it to look like that. Mm-hmm. It's like, it really is kind of a shield. But the visual effects in this movie are not bad. Like, there's some questionable visual effects that we'll see coming up here.
Okay,
But there's
okay.
also a lot of really good, cool, thoughtful stuff. This is one of the coolest visual effects scenes in the movie.
Okay.
This is all hyper stylized.
Oh.
Okay, this is cool.
Ooh.
Oh, this is
That is
super cool.
interesting.
Sick.
Wow, is that a puppet? Or is it CG? Those must be actors and actresses wearing that
Whoa.
stuff. Bravo.
Yeah.
You did it.
But I think we can kind of infer as to what they're doing, right? It's like actors in, these hard plastic prosthetics who are performing, and all of the footage, of course, is filmed in slow motion to give them a sense of scale as they fall or move.
I'll bet they have some sort of latex suit. Their hands are probably painted. And I bet you that everything from here to the chin up is all basically a mask to get the actual sculpted statuesque features.
And the car we saw drive by was a miniature car?
This is all on camera.
Yeah, that's
100%
all in camera, miniature set, probably on a volume too.
Yeah, this is all real. I don't think it's
Yeah,
composite.
I mean-
This is all on camera.
This is the type of poetic realism that I can get behind. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. That's surreal.
This is Caesar, the guy in the black suit. Caesar like Rome, kinda.
Oh, okay.
Just in case you didn't catch it.
He makes pizza.
He makes pizza,
That's
exactly.
Big Caesar.
So this is Caesar. He is a visionary artist who understands what humanity needs to evolve. He's that guy.
And you think 1 year of medical school entitles you to plow through the riches of my Emersonian mind?
Entitles me?
Yes.
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 Entitles me?
Yeah.
Right? He sees the future.
He's him.
He's him, dude.
So go back to the club.
Time! Stop! Citizens of New Rome, I had a dream of an all-in-one platform that would allow visionaries to
Wait, what? Hold up. What is, okay.
It's a little funky.
There's a disconnect happening here. For me, it's the leading lines. I usually assume that an elevator is going to be more or less parallel to the wall that it's on. The leading lines of the street do not match up with the lines of the elevator. And that's kind of immediately throwing it off, like, oh, the elevator's like crooked from the wall.
So it's interesting to point out that this scene, like many others in the film, is making use of a stage that is surrounded by giant LED panels called the volume. The backgrounds here that we're seeing are basically all captured in camera straight from Unreal Engine. A scene was basically built and designed for this specific coverage. Maybe it's also tethered to the camera in 3D space, and animation is going on in the background, and the scene is evolving as we see it. And it becomes really obvious that they're using this volume when the characters get up to the top of this building. One of the giveaways for the volume is obviously theater in the round, so to speak.
Wait,
You know what I mean? That's what we'll call it.
Yeah, it's we're at a space and there's a wall of picture around us, and we will people neither the two of us will ever meet.
Yes. So you're certain this whole thing is the volume right here, because we're looking downwards. Normally the volume is a wall, and that does not include the floor. With this sort of perspective looking down, we would have to see some sort of floor.
Well, that's the fun thing about this particular setup. For the sake of performance of the actors, they actually suspended all of these stages up about 20 feet off the ground.
Wow.
And that was, and they put down a net below them to increase the anxiety of being up that high, so to speak.
They put a safety net out to increase the anxiety.
They weren't on wires, right?
They weren't on wires. They
And
put
she's
down,
wearing, look at the heels she's wearing, dude.
Imagine landing on a net in high heels.
Wow.
How does that work?
That's both really cool and probably not necessary.
Volumes are very interesting. Like, they're being used more and more since obviously The Mandalorian blew them up. But they definitely have limitations as well. Because in Unreal Engine, there's only so far you can push it. It's designed to be real time, and therefore lots of shortcuts are taken in order to optimize the scene to make that possible. That often doesn't lead to the best final image, especially when we're talking about film quality stuff. With this shot in particular, you can see that some of the light values don't match between the foreground and the background.
What's the brightest spot in this entire frame?
Adam Driver's
The
face.
edges of their faces, right there.
You're right, and they shouldn't be brighter than the sky.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, the bounce light from the sky is brighter than the source light in the sky.
Yeah, and it's because they have the real light off screen, and that's brighter than the screen. But whatever, poetic realism, you know.
You know, poetic.
I mean,
How many
that's
times can we
movies.
say that though? Yeah, but you know, poetic realism, so that's fine. The idea was to shoot all of this on volume. But as the budget and timeline kind of ballooned and entire departments were wiped out, they had to kind of pivot and change the goalposts a little bit.
Because what's the biggest thing you got to do with working with volumes? You have to prepare your assets in advance.
Yes, that's
Which
very
means
fair.
you have to have a clear vision of what you want it to be before you ever start shooting.
Yeah.
And when you're shooting on a green screen, the nature of figuring it out later means you can just figure it out later, which isn't a great thing, but it allows you to do it.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is they pivoted to going traditional green screen for some of this stuff as well, and you can definitely see the difference.
So we get to this shot, it's still poetically kind of weird. It feels like a cool video game render, you know? But the perspective's a little wonky. And I think the main thing that's happening is she's being filmed with one focal length, like a kind of wide angle lens. Then the background left element is being rendered at a slightly different focal length, and the background right is at a completely different perspective. It's like we're looking at that tree like side on, as opposed to like top down through a 14mm lens. So the background feels detached from all that. The thing that breaks the poetic realism for me is the rain. The rain looks like default settings, and that doesn't feel like an artistic decision.
And then of course you have this, where you're being lit with a direct light source and you need something to cast shadow over it.
Yeah, and all they do is just darken her layer.
And all
but,
they do
like,
is darken her layer that is
Yeah.
still being lit directly.
That last shot there is the only one that gives me serious Neil Breen vibes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Follow me. They can't hurt me. You won't get hurt.
There's all these different eras of green screen, and the eras of like early 2000s music videos green screen with hyper contrast and saturation that looks exactly like this is my favorite era. This is like a Linkin Park music video from 2003.
I know the
Oh,
Is that replaced
that's
though?
a very digital crowd.
And then this is the...
But if it's online, that can...
Whoa! What?
Oh my Oh, this got very David Lynch all of a sudden. Woo!
It just slaps you when it pops up.
I mean, this is like,
Anyone want to drop poetic realism right now?
you know what? Poetry's still got a rhyme, you know?
It's like rhyming orange with door hinge. It's like, I don't know about that one.
Especially because they're clowns that are already doing goofy things when they cut to. Was that intentional? Was he intentionally making the VFX goofy to match the humor of clowns?
Yeah, dude, that's poetic
Are
realism,
we
man.
being clowned upon right now?
Whoa!
That does not look like an in-camera background to me.
No, of course not.
That looks like a replaced background.
100%.
That's not a volume stage.
The VFX aren't bad. There's no lighting. There's no cinematography. Like there's nothing. This is just assets comped together. But you know, whoever rotoed it / green screened it, good job. You knew it going into it. At least it's on the show now, right? I think the whole point of the clown scene was it's just Francis trying to tell people to subscribe to Corridor.
Oh, you're right.
Whoa!
I mean, it's pretty cool that they're doing this clone effect while moving the camera. This has got to be some motion control stuff. It's probably literally just a robot arm doing the same camera move and they're moving where she's hanging from to a different spot and doing the same camera move again, and they're comping that together.
So she is a virgin. That is relevant. I'm not just telling you that. Yeah, because everyone in the Coliseum is celebrating her purity, and I think they're bidding on it. What? I think they're bidding to keep it. I don't know, to be honest. They got QR codes and stuff.
It literally is QR codes,
It's literally paddles with QR codes. It's New Rome, dude. We do things different.
Do they have cell phones in this world?
They have to! There's QR codes!
Yes, they literally have to. They literally have to. So while all this is going down in the Coliseum, our boy Caesar's busy getting crunk backstage.
Oh, interesting.
He's just moving backwards though. So it's a reverse shot.
Is he upside down or is he laying down on his back?
I think he's mounted on his side.
I know what they're doing. It's a spinning room.
Wait, but it doesn't look like anything's shifting weight-wise on him, though.
I bet it's static. I bet the room's not rotating. But here's the thing, though. Some of the glass shards are on the wall. Some of the glass shards are on the actual ground. What if it's not fully sideways? What if it's kind of a diagonal?
And I feel like some of that glass will slide.
Guys, it's a spinning room.
Why?
I don't mean that the room orbits on an axis. I mean it's like on like a merry-go-round.
So it's spinning 11 Gs.
Yeah, no, but he's getting pulled to the side because things are getting pulled outwards from the rotation. It sounds like a carnival ride.
Oh my God, Nico, I think you might be right.
Yeah, gravity's down and to the side.
It does feel like something that Mr. Coppola would do.
That would explain the Coriolis effect.
Yeah.
The way the glass leaves his hand.
Yeah, he doesn't throw it up. Like he kind of like flicks it out so it gets pulled out of his hand effectively by like centrifugal force.
If gravity was perfectly sideways, it would just continue on in that arc.
Yeah.
So there's something pulling it down.
I think the room's spinning.
This is wild. This is actually
Yeah,
wild.
there's no way it would just be a shot of Adam Driver sideways. Francis has done that. That's baby level
But
stuff.
like, he's like spin the room.
Like, I made the Godfather, all right?
So, as we've established, Caesar is a tortured genius trying to usher in a utopia. And the way that this city is going to be taken into the future is with a new metal, I think it is, or something. It's called Megalon. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
This is getting a little ChatGPT now.
You know, Caesar, he's a famous person around Megalopolis. So this little boy comes up for an autograph on a book, sweetheart, and he's gonna take time to sign that book.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Whoa! The kid just assassinated Caesar.
Dude, is his name Luigi's Mansion?
So now they're gonna use Megalon as construction material in order to heal a bullet wound to the head.
Will activate some of the
There he is.
Wait!
No.
Wait!
This has to be dream mode. This has to be dream mode.
This is not real!
This has to be
This
dream
is
mode.
not real!
His teeth are on his lips.
His teeth. For now, Nico, but that's before the surgery, okay? This light going over indicating Megalon's healing.
This has to be poetic realism here. This can't. They're not trying to show us what his face actually looks like. Right?
No.
They're showing us what happens inside.
So now they're gonna stop using the Megalon for some reason, and I assume just kind of let him heal normally.
He's like, we got you 90% of the way there with the light thing, but yeah,
Let time do the rest. We got the bone, we got the muscle, the skin, but
it's like in Elysium when they healed the guy's face. Because they had stop. That's good. Wake him up. What? Keep going. No. Oh, he's channeling his Nick Cage.
Caesar.
I don't know anything to say about this.
No, I know.
What just happened?
This is crazy.
That's what I'm saying. You're in the movie, you're watching it, you're going, wait, what? Hold on. And while you're processing one thing, he's already moved on. He's about to hit you again with something even wilder. This scene might be the greatest scene in cinematic history.
We came to pay our respects, man.
What do you think of this boner I got? I would have been able to outspend you, but I will outlive you. Wow.
Ding! What is this bow and arrow?
Oh my God! You got another one?
Amazing.
Amazing. And out of nowhere. What do you think of this boner I got?
And he pulls out a Nerf bow and arrow. Kills Aubrey Plaza. Just right in the heart. he like Hanzo's her. I love that he whips the blanket aside and it shows it, and they do it the tiniest of lens flares in like a ping on a triangle.
It's poetic realism. Now we land on Caesar's final speech to inspire the building of this city.
Wait! It's the same shot, but they flipped it.
Just played again and flipped. It's the exact same people doing the exact
bold.
same thing.
That is the boldest
That is
decision.
bold.
It's literally the same shot, but just horizontally flipped.
It's like this is simultaneously the biggest and smallest budget movie I've ever seen.
Yes. This entire view of the city, these are all Unreal renders, which doesn't look bad, but it also doesn't hold up to the big standard. So now it feels arch busy, and I don't know why, because I'm pretty darn sure we're supposed to be seeing the real megalopolis here, not like an idea of it at this point.
Why are they sliding in the grass?
They're sliding apart.
You knew this. You knew this was gonna happen, and you were waiting for me to notice, and it was the first thing I noticed. They're stepping, and they're just like, weep.
It is our time.
They're doing their celebratory, like, we did it, we saved the city. Mayor Cicero's on board now. They had a baby.
We're going to have a baby.
What?
Who I guess is like, you know, represents something.
He'll be named Francis.
Build a future for her.
What? Oh my goodness.
Wait a minute. That has to be a comp.
It's gotta be a comp.
Because the baby's
Why,
actually
though?
just on the glass floor.
Why comp in a carpet?
It's poetic realism. That's all, folks. I don't know. I don't know anything. I may have lied.
Oh yeah?
This isn't the end of the movie. There is one more thing, and it might be the most important thing of all.
I pledge allegiance
To
our human family and to all the species that we protect.
One earth, indivisible,
With long life, education, and justice for all.
Yeah, and that's how it ends.
Can I tell you guys a story?
Yes.
So I had an intro to drawing class my first year in college, and one of the students would constantly just write things in the poster. Like they'd be going for a message, they just write the message on the poster. And the teacher's like, hey, if you have to write your message out, perhaps your picture is not successful in conveying your message. I'll leave it at that.
This was a passion project that clearly there's a lot of passion in it and there's a lot of things trying to be said in it. Whether or not I understand the majority is yet to be decided. I'm still processing it all.
Francis, if you're watching, we actually thoroughly enjoyed this, and mad respect.
This movie made me feel a whole bunch, and for that I'm very grateful.
So I had this idea to build what I'm calling the double-decker Newton's cradle. The idea is pretty straightforward. With a normal Newton's cradle, the energy of the first ball is entirely transferred to the last ball. Whereas in the double-decker setup, I want the energy to transfer from the first ball through this lever and into the first ball of the lower Newton's cradle. But as you can maybe tell, the issue is with tuning the lever. Specifically, the mass of the lever and the distance of the balls from the pivot of the lever. And it was while I was trying to optimize those parameters that I realized something, which is that I don't understand levers. So this video was originally going to be, hey, look at this weird Newton's cradle that I made. But now it's going to be me trying to convince you that you don't understand levers either. And then maybe together we all get to the point where we understand levers again, with a bit of help from Matt Parker here and Henry from Minute Physics. And if you're someone who continues to understand levers throughout this video, I'm sure you'll leave a comment to let us know, perhaps describing how obvious it all seems to you. That way we know how clever you are. We will get back to optimizing the double-decker Newton's cradle eventually, I promise. But first, here's how I'm gonna try and persuade you that there's at least something that you don't understand about levers. To do that, I'm going to introduce you to a thought experiment involving a system of levers. And then I'm gonna go through a series of logical steps that seem very reasonable. And then at the end, we'll have a situation where I've put 1 joule of energy into the system, but I've got 2 joules of energy out. Okay, so suppose we have a 1 kilogram mass and it's floating in space. And imagine we've got a rocket that we can use to push on this mass. And it's a specially designed rocket so that it's always going to push with exactly 1 Newton of force. So we start the engine and we start pushing. And we keep pushing until we've traveled a distance of 1 meter. And so of course the mass speeds up and now it has some kinetic energy. So how much work has the rocket done on the mass? Well, work done is force times distance. The force is 1 Newton, the distance is 1 meter, and so the work done is 1 joule. 1 times 1 is 1. And that 1 joule of work turns into the kinetic energy of the mass. So the 1 kilogram mass ends up with a kinetic energy of 1 joule. And if you want to be belt and braces about it, you can also calculate it by starting with force equals mass times acceleration. It's a longer calculation, but you still end up with a kinetic energy of 1 joule. And by the way, its velocity at the end is √2 meters per second. That will come in handy later. In the previous animation, I had the rocket kind of disappear for clarity. But of course, after the engines turn off, the rocket's going to be moving at that speed as well, and they'll just glide together. Now let's imagine the whole thing is mediated by a lever. It's the same thing. We push on the lever with a force of 1 Newton over 1 meter. The mass feels the same force over the same distance, and so it ends up with the same kinetic energy of 1 joule. For the next logical step, we just need to remind ourselves of something we already know about levers. And for this, we're not floating in space anymore, we're back on Earth, and we're just holding up a kilogram mass with our finger. A certain amount of force is required to do that, about 10 newtons here on Earth, because the pull of gravity is about 10 meters per second here. That's little g. I'm going to assume that little g is about 10 throughout this video. So it's 10 newtons of force from the finger to hold up that 10 Newton weight force from the 1 kilogram mass. Now here's the famous thing about levers. If you halve the mass but double the distance from the pivot, the finger doesn't feel any different. The mass now has double mechanical advantage, but it has half the mass and they cancel out. If you halve the mass but double the distance, the turning force stays the same. That's the thing we know about levers. And so your finger is required to apply the same force as before, about 10 newtons. Your finger cannot tell the difference between the 1 kilogram mass that's the same distance away from the pivot as your finger and the half kilogram mass that's twice the distance away from the pivot as your finger. In fact, you could put the mass end of the lever in a black box and there's nothing you could do with your finger to be able to distinguish between a 1 kilogram mass and a half kilogram mass that's twice as far away. There's no experiment that you could do to figure out which one it was. The finger has the same experience because the force is the same in both scenarios. Okay, so back into space now, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to move the mass twice as far away, and we're going to half it. That's half a kilogram. And again, the rocket will apply a force of 1 newton over a distance of 1 meter, which of course means that the mass will be pushed over a distance of 2 meters because that side of the lever is twice as long. And so the mass gains some kinetic energy. Now, the rocket can't distinguish between these two situations. The experience of the rocket should be the same in both cases, as we know from the levers on Earth. The reaction force of the rocket will be the same, and so the acceleration of the rocket will be the same. And so the rate at which the lever rotates around the pivot will be the same, like this. Now this end of this lever is traveling twice as fast as this end of this lever because it's twice as far from the pivot. So after the engines turn off, the half kilogram mass will be traveling at twice the speed of the 1 kilogram mass. So how does that affect its kinetic energy? What happens to the kinetic energy of something when you half the mass and double the speed? Well, let's take a look at the equation for kinetic energy. You've got that v squared term in there. Let's write that out as v times v. So we've got a half mvv. And remember, we're halving the mass and doubling the velocity. So the kinetic energy is halved, then doubled again. Now, if you halve something, then double it, that cancels out, and we're just left with that final doubling. So instead of 1 joule, it's double that. It's 2 joules. And if you want to use actual values, we can do that, because if you remember earlier, we got a value for the velocity of the 1 kilogram mass of √2. But of course, we're doubling that, so it's 2 √2. Squaring that gives you 8. The mass is half, so we divide by 2. And then half again, because the equation for kinetic energy has a half in it. That gives you 2 joules. But remember, the rockets are having an identical experience. 1 newton over 1 meter is 1 joule. So I've just shown that we can put 1 joule of energy into a lever and get 2 joules of energy back out. So that means one of two things. Either free energy technology is real and the government is suppressing it, or Steve doesn't understand levers. Or to be more precise, one of those logical steps, let's put it in scare quotes, one of those logical steps was wrong. Now, to me, they all seem quite reasonable, rigorous even, but there was one that was a bit more hand-wavy than the others. Maybe you spotted it, actually. It's at this point where I said the finger pushing down on the lever, it requires the same force to hold up half a kilogram mass over here and the 1 kilogram mass over here. That bit's true. But then I said something like, in other words, the experience of the finger is the same in both cases. There's nothing that the finger could do to distinguish whether it's a half kilogram mass or a 1 kilogram mass. It sounds plausible, and it seemed reasonable to me when I first started thinking about it. But at the same time, I can't think of any physical concept or idea that would justify it beyond, physics intuition. So this seems like a reasonable candidate for where we went wrong and how we ended up getting more energy out than we put in. So although you need to apply the same force in this scenario that you do in this scenario, maybe it doesn't follow that the experience of, say, waggling the lever is the same for both scenarios. Well, brilliantly, that's something that we can test. So I set up this blind test. It's not double blind because I can't be bothered to do good experimental design, to be honest. But anyway, we dragged a few people in off the streets, and this is what we found out.
Oh, I would say if I had to pick, this one wiggles easier.
Interesting. And down that.
Did I get it right?
Get it
the dog
right.
also waggles.
Test subject number 2, Lucy Green.
Yeah, one is obviously harder.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Which
Oh,
one?
definitely this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And down.
So if I hold them both, I can convince myself that's the same force.
Yeah.
But you're saying the next, like the movement's different.
Yeah. Once it becomes the dynamic system, it changes.
Ah. That's cool.
I also tried the experiment, and so did my wife, and we had the same results. So that seems pretty conclusive. Everyone that conducted the experiment felt that it was easier to waggle the mass that was at the same distance from the pivot as their hand, and harder to waggle the mass that was half the mass but twice as far away from the pivot. But let's try and quantify easier to waggle. What does that mean? Well, I think it means two things. I think it means for a given force, the lever moves more rapidly when it's a 1 kilogram mass here than when it's a ½ kilogram mass here. In other words, the lever accelerates more rapidly for a given force. Or to put it another way, the smaller mass that's further away requires a larger force to get the same amount of acceleration. And so to bring all this back to the lever in space, what we find is that when we apply a force of 1 Newton over 1 meter, well, it takes longer in the case of the ½ kilogram that's twice as far from the pivot. In other words, it accelerates more slowly and the velocity at the end is lower than my intuition would have expected. To wrap it up mathematically, we can ask the question, well, how much slower will it be going? Well, we know that the energy must be 1 joule, and then you can derive what the velocity must be from that. But if we're trying to disprove the free energy hypothesis, we should probably prove that the ½ kilogram mass has a kinetic energy of 1 joule from a force perspective first, which is actually really easy. The key is to notice that the force on the ½ kilogram mass is ½ a Newton, because that's how mechanical advantage works. From the work equation, we get ½ a Newton times 2 meters is 1 joule. You then get the velocity by rearranging the kinetic energy equation. And when you do that, you find that whatever the final velocity of the larger mass was, the smaller mass, instead of being double the velocity, it's √2 times the velocity of the larger mass. So that's where my intuition went wrong. These two spaceships in these two different scenarios don't have identical experiences. One of them moves more slowly. But I still think it's a compelling line of reasoning. Like when I've presented it to smart people, it hasn't persuaded them that you can get 2 joules from 1, but at the same time, they weren't able to immediately tell me where I'd gone wrong. You know, I bet I could persuade a few people to invest in a free energy device just by running them through my space lever slide deck. Be a good way to make a bit of money as well. Not that I'd do it, obviously, because I mean, it'd be a hassle, wouldn't it? Like, I'd have to contact hundreds of investors and chase them all up and keep track of where I was with each one. I need some kind of CRM, basically, you know, a customer relations management, in which case I could use the sponsor of this video, Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one management platform for entrepreneurs. It's got a whole load of different business applications like invoicing, accounting, project management, and much more to help you manage your entire business. The first application is free for life, including hosting and support. And once you have 2 separate applications, that's when you switch to the paid plan. And of course, their CRM app has all the things you want a CRM to do for your business: track leads, get accurate forecasts, close sales, and so on. You've got this Kanban view, so you can keep track of opportunities by dragging them around like Post-it notes from stage to stage. Each opportunity includes all the essential information, and because everything's integrated, sending quotes and scheduling meetings will appear in your other apps. Quotes will sync to the sales app and meetings to your calendar. In other words, get everything in one place, that was the same distance from the pivot. If you do the maths, it turns out you're not sending it double the distance, you're sending it √2 times the distance from the pivot. But it still feels counterintuitive to me. Like, why is it that the force required to hold it down is the same, but the force to get the thing moving is different? I mean, we know why it is, because that's how the physics works, but I suppose my question is, why does my intuition go the other way? Why does my intuition say that if the force is the same to hold a mass stationary against gravity, then the force should be the same to get it to accelerate at some particular rate? Well, I've been thinking about that, and I think this is where it comes from. Suppose I'm holding a mass, maybe it's 1/10 of a kilogram. That means I'm having to apply a force of 1 Newton to hold this thing against gravity. And I know from life experience, like, I don't know the numbers, but just like qualitatively, I know that if I doubled that force, then the thing would accelerate upwards at 10 meters per second, right, at little g. And so when I get a sense of like how hard is it to keep this thing stationary, I have an expectation that if I double that force, then it should accelerate at little g. But when I press down on a lever with a certain force, right, to keep it stationary, and then I double that force, my brain is expecting my hand to accelerate downwards at little g, but it might not, right? It depends what's going on the other side of the lever. And then I was thinking, like, is there a neat way, like, is there something I can point to and say, look, this is where it deviates from intuition? And I thought, well, it's because it's a spinning thing. You know, the physics of spinning things is counterintuitive because you've got the moment of inertia with this r² term. Like, maybe that's why. Maybe it's just because the physics of spinning things is weird and we don't have an intuition for it. But then I was talking to Henry from Minute Physics about it, and now I think I'm wrong.
Hey Steve, so when you first told me about this lever paradox puzzle thing, I also thought it must be because rotating things are complicated, but when I sat down and did the calculations, I noticed that I didn't really have to rely on any physics specific to rotations. Ultimately, the two different masses are distinguishable when you waggle the lever, purely because they move different distances. The little mass on the twice as long lever moves twice as far for a given deflection of your hand. This got me thinking about other places where an identical force applied over a fixed distance can result in objects moving different distances, which made me think of pulleys. Like, you could hold up a 1 kilogram object with a rope over a pulley like this, or a 0.5 kilogram object with a pulley set up like this, and the force you'd experience would be the same. Feel free to pause and think about it. For you to pull your rope 1 meter, the 0.5 kilogram object will move 2 meters, while the 1 kilogram object only moves 1, just like the rocket lever thought experiment. And the rest of the math works out identically to the levers. If you hid these two pulley setups inside boxes, you could tell which was which by pulling up and down on the rope, the equivalent of wiggling the lever. It's kind of like the pulley setup gives the small mass a higher moment of inertia, or whatever the equivalent of that is for pulleys. And you can also contrive a similar but not exactly the same situation with inclined planes. So I think this whole puzzle is more about the mechanical advantage of these scenarios. At least mechanical advantage applied in such a way that it results in an object moving a different distance than your input force moved. Because, full disclosure, there are also ways of setting up a situation with inclined planes where you really can't tell the difference between the two different masses, because the force you experience is the same, and they both move the same amount. So I think it's about how mechanical advantage allows you to convert the magnitude of the motion.
So really it's about mechanical advantage, which interestingly was the central premise of my last video about Brennan torpedoes. Total coincidence there. The famous thing about mechanical advantage is there's a trade-off between force and distance moved. I don't require much force to move this mass up and down because I have mechanical advantage, right? But to get the mass just to move a little bit, I have to move my hand a lot. And I guess we can just extend that. So it's not just a trade-off between force and distance, it's a trade-off between force and distance over time. In other words, velocity. It's also a trade-off between force and distance over time squared. In other words, the acceleration. So to apply that back to the waggly sticks, look, in this scenario, we actually have mechanical distance.
There. By Insta360. Now, of course, normally I use their Ace Pro cameras, and I film the people that have sent the stuff. They've all gone in separate folders because there's quite a lot of methods we can do with this. Actually, this is going to be quite interesting. So, I've put you all in different folders. I'll get back to you as and when. But between there, we've built the whole back wall. Oh, that looks lovely, doesn't it? Now, what we're going to do in a minute, we're going to get rid of this Christmas tree. It's not Christmas anymore. So we need to winch that out. And then today's job is to start building the top bit of this. Because obviously this is supposed to have like a curve on it, like that side. But the reason why it's been done like that is because I wanted to get some concrete behind it before everybody broke up for the holiday. And so there's like a 2-week gap where nothing happens, and I didn't want any dirt falling off, going down the back, and we couldn't get it up. So that is now full of concrete. Which is about, I don't know, a few inches just below that. Bit of wall there, and then we've got some plates down here. Build the top wall up, start fabricating the roof. Very nice. But we've got to get rid of this tree. Right then, Rick. It's done very well, not to try. Right, go on then. Now we could have took it through the tunnel, but I didn't want to drop needles everywhere. So I thought we'd do this. Latest Christmas.
I got
See you
it.
next year. Bought all the roots on, by the way, so I can plant it. And then we've not sacrificed the tree for Christmas. Very nice. Oh, so it's drifting down my back. It was mega snowing earlier, like proper snowing. We had a bit of snow across the weekend, and then that was supposed to be it. Woke up Monday morning, first day back on the job, literal blizzard. But luckily it only lasted half. Right, that's that. Got a little welder tag up there. I'm going to put this on. But there you are, guys. That's what's happening today. There is all the concrete. That is a thick wall, that is. That ain't going anywhere. The drain system is working a treat. Put some leaves out the way there, Colin. There they are. Oh, look at Charlotte! Did you have a nice Christmas then,
Very
Charlotte?
nice Christmas, Colin.
You did have a
Yes,
nice
thank
Christmas.
You. Yeah. We had a nice Christmas.
Yeah, we did have a nice Christmas. She's you're obviously not doing any tunneling or garage work today, are we?
Purely Flow Pro filming you.
Flow Pro filming.
Yeah.
Okay, sponsor Insta360 Flow. Now, obviously, if you're working by, it will follow you throughout this whole thing. Even if you get obstructed or go behind something, it will still track you. Also, if there's more than one of you, it will treat you all as a group and keep you all in frame. Now, if you want to get yourself one of these, use my link in the description, and the first 30 people will get a free magnetic phone holder. Or, if you want an Ace Pro 2, at the same link, you'll get a free screen protector. Right then, Colin, back to the secret garage.
What are you today, Colin?
So today, yesterday basically, we've got that little bit of wall at the top there. I look at that and think that's not much for a day's work, but you know, we've got these bits down here which we have to lower in with a winch. It's all smoothed off ready, so I'm going to clean this bit of beam up, which was clamped on there, get that welded up, and then these bits are the bit of wall which go in front of it. Because essentially, as you can see, that's just a nice flat wall. We need to make the curve. So, but we've got our recess. So that bit there goes just to there. Those big flat beams are basically that upwards across the whole thing. So that's what I'm doing today. And then if we get that done, because I feel we're going to have a slightly more productive day today, because it's not the first day back. We're warmed into it now. Is we'll get the bender out in the garden and bend the roof ribs to do the ceiling. It's Tuesday today, because I'm hoping by the end of the week, Friday, this is all welded up and there's a roof on there, and then I can start doing the walls around the rim of where the car comes out. It's exciting times, because by the end of January, I want this watertight. So I want the walls up to the surface, and then some sort of lid on the top properly seals the water. Doesn't drip in like this thing does. And then hopefully it will never get wet in here again. Oh. Brush across it, put a bit of dirty oil on it, and it looks all nice again. If I was to come up with a paint colour, I'd call it mill scale. It would obviously be this colour, of course, to clarify that.
What are you doing out here today then, Colin?
Well, funny you should ask. In fact, I don't think I'm the right person to ask today. I think we need to ask Rick. Look at this wonderful setup.
Look at it.
Bended. These are the roof little ribs. And we've got a little slider for them to slide across, slide on. But this is a three-person job today, Charlotte.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to put that on the tripod, and then it can track one of us. Me, Rick, well, just the person who's not standing there, basically. Let's see how we get on. I've got my template, so we know we've got the right bend. There we are. Let's have a go. Out in the frost. Yeah.
You got my attention. Watch your back.
Six of it. I'm holding up. That's enough for you. Oh, I can't turn you off. I can't turn you off. Put some more steel. Forward and do it. This is ours to steer. It's not heavy, is it? That's not that bad. Are you checking it up? Check this out, look. I'm a perpetual motion machine. No input necessary. Feel sick.
Are we impressed?
No. How does that work, eh? How's that work?
I think we've got some bending to do, Colin.
Yeah, I'm not going to say no to a pair of shoes. Hey, what are you doing?
I was...
The meaty stuff, Tom. You know, we've got some shoes. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I like the colour.
What's happening this afternoon, Colin?
I'm in deep thought, and I'm just looking at these roofings, see how many we need to do. So we want one in the corner, one above that beam, and then we've got my little mistake thing I made here, because that shouldn't be there. I've got to cut that out. And then I think I'm going to do two here. So where the wall goes, up there, I'm going to have like one on the inside and then another one right next to it which protrudes forward, so the beams like this that go up there have something to come down and sit onto. But they'll be 40mm rather than 50mm, so I'll just snidge it over 10mm.
What's happening today then, Colin?
Well, funny you should ask. So we got all these roof ribs bent up yesterday, and now we've attached our winch system up here, and then we're going to pull them up and get them all in position. Now then, Rick, I think you did that, didn't you? That's it, yep. Excellent. Oh, your ladders are very good. I'll borrow it. Right, let me turn the Ace Pro on a minute. That's what we call it. Right, let's see. Right, let's wrestle this a bit. There we go. Now, you go down there. I'm on a little bit shaving off there. There's not much. Do a look right around there. No, follows the roof line here. I've just got to sit in this one a little bit. That's enough there. Yeah, just want a little shavy bit up there. Drops it down. So it can shove under. That's what we'll do. So that's what we're doing today. Once we've done this one, we've got 4 to do over there, and then we cut that bit of metal into the arch, or whatever, get a little bit of rebar on, get some shuttering up. Crisp every time! They are, so that's what I'm doing today. Too much for this. Wants to flop forward. If anything, lower it a tiny bit. That's it. I'm not in it yet. So you go look over. That's it. That's so close. I think the time we got that out of there. Nearly. Just a fraction more of it. Think about it, see we?
How are ya? Off with you.
Whoa, don't do that. Where's the clamp? Right, winch down over here.
What's happening today, Colin?
Well, funny you should ask. Today's a very exciting day. We're putting the roof sheets on this bit. So, and the reason why it's exciting is because once this little bit of roof's done, and then we've got a little bit of concrete pour around the side here, everything else we build is stuff that goes up to the surface. So basically the wall around where the car comes out, like the little gutter drainy thing around that, and then it's basically doing all the reinforcement and stuff over this. I feel we're making very good progress. It's Friday. At the beginning of the week I said I wanted to get to where this was done. I think we're just about making it. It's all good. I'm happy. I'll just set the time lapse up here somewhere. Because you know, there is a video to make. Right, that's there. Got to have a power pack. It's like -4 today. It's quite nice actually though. I'm not complaining. I don't mind it when it's cold. It's wet I don't like. Right, let me move this. Right. Let's clamp you up here. Wondering what that's for. Where the RSJ comes up on the wall, just so I get a little bit of overshoot. Got a little slot out for it. That's what that's for.
If we're sensible, we can swing this round and get it nearly there, can't we?
Yeah, we can, yeah. Hang on. There you go, look. Right, I need to push it under the... It keeps cutting out on the limit. What's that? It's because of this. The anti-thingy-majiggy. We've got it on in the wrong place. Right, now I think we need to start turning. I'll fuck come over here. I've got the labyrinth straps I've got to go about, look. What? And the no, it's in front of the joist now. What's that bloody... Hey, oh, you take that a minute. Right, that's it. Up you go. Woo the boat. Right, now drop it down. Down. That's it. Whoa. The clamp ladder in the way. Right, now pull it back towards us. Stand on it. Right, release, lower it.
You're standing on it?
Yeah. Look at that.
Can I help you? Off and away.
There's a little bit of a tiny gap there, but that will pull in with a clamp.
We did that last time.
We did. We're all flush all the way up here.
Good.
I think we've done very well. And that is what we're up to today. Right.
Happening today.
I'm moving this and I was thinking, is she gonna ask me or not? And then I looked up at you and then you were just like, I don't know, it just felt like, I don't know, you forgot what to do. Anyway, you should ask.
I should ask this again.
Yeah?
Because you're taking us with me now.
I haven't got all
day. I didn't know what you were doing.
No. I think you're fine. This is a new Flow Pro, and I was just
I know it's the new
finding
Flow
my
Pro.
way. Colin,
do not see that.
Wow, funny you should ask. We're in rebar mode
What
now.
would you ask
We've got a bit
of
of roof on that. Feels better when you get a bit of roof on. I've got some sand on now, I'm not working on the loader. Putting all the hoops across the top of the rebar, and then we have this little bit which sticks out just above the roof down here. So when we do the rebar all over the roof, it's got something to tie to. So I'm putting that on, and then we'll shutter this bit off, and then it's Chris Bibby time. So that is what we're doing today. But I enjoyed myself last week, because we got everything done I wanted to do, and then, you know, it's very good. I'm happy. So I'm going to get this down here and tie it in and stitch it up. Very nice. Posting things up here. There's a little bit of extra roof to go on here, yeah? If you're wondering why that's sticking out, because I could see you thinking, why does that stick out, Colin?
Yes, we were having a wonderful conversation, telling you all the best bits, but you'll never know this because it was on time lapse.
Well, I can see one thing you've done today, Colin.
Hello.
You've had a haircut.
No, I haven't.
What are you up to today?
Well, funny you should ask. So, I can't remember what we were doing yesterday. What were we doing?
you were doing
top,
the
weren't we?
top.
Yeah, doing the thing around the outside.
Yeah.
For Chris Bibby, who can't come because he's got problems at his yard, he can't get all the cement in his truck thing, so that's not happening. So, today is noggins. So we've got to measure all these bits up here, put them all down, get them all welded in, the bits across the roof, and then there's a tiny little bit of roof extension that's going to go on here, about 20 mil, not 20 mil, 20 centimetres, 200 mil, it's got to stick out. The actual roof comes to about there, a little bit in front of that, and then we'll plasma cut it once I've got it all up there to make sure it's all dead parallel and dead square. That's the bit where the car goes. So I've got some more steel, Newark steel, coming tomorrow. And then once we've got this bit here done, then we're building this, basically the vertical wall that goes from here up to the surface. Yes. And then once that bit's done, and then hopefully it'll be watertight, and then this won't get wet again, which is exciting. And then also, once that's done, it's covering it over time.
Ooh.
Oh! Progress. No.
It definitely feels more like a room though now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like when you pan around, when you're in it, it feels.
It's still got that echo at the minute though, because this top bit's not got any concrete on, and also till you get some carpet or flooring and stuff down, it doesn't really stop, does it? So,
No.
So I thought, like when I was editing the stuff the other day, it's quite hard to hear what I'm saying sometimes. We should probably get some microphones on. But you know, it's just something else for me to blooming concentrate on, isn't it? Is my microphone battery dead? They are.
Yeah, measure away.
And that's what we're doing today.
Here we find Colin in his natural environment, foraging amongst the steel.
Don't want to go cutting into some nice big long lengths if we don't have to. You know how much this stuff costs?
Thank you.
crucial error. When they go up against the wall, I always make sure that the seam on the metal is the back bit so you can't see it. So I'll have to use this on the other side of the room. Hopefully it should be the same measurement. But I'm not there in a minute. I'm starting on that side. I'm putting another one.
What's happening today, Colin?
I'm finishing off what I think it was yesterday. It's like 200 minutes, bring down this big Irish guy. And then, just put the little noggins across. And then we start doing this wall up there. Although before that, I have to put some extra horizontal RSJs across there. There's got to be 2 on the car opening. So we'll do that. And then, yeah, to the surface!
Woo! You've got these noggins up there, haven't you?
Yeah, got them yesterday. I mean, I took all day yesterday. I spent most of the time going up and down the ladder to the shed. So, it was just one of them days where I didn't quite achieve all my goals. But, you know, you have them days, don't you?
You had a haircut, didn't you?
I did have a, you know what, I mean, that's what did it. I had my haircut, it put me off my stride, didn't it? It cut my counterbalance off, that's what happened.
How important is this bit of wood? Because, I mean...
Well, what this is...
Oh, it's not even...
No, so this is my wedge opening. Right, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller.
Wedge opening?
Yeah, because there's a bit in the roof. Until we get everything in position, it can float around a little bit. So, if you give this a... Basically, there's a little bit there, because these sheets naturally don't really want to bend, they want it straight. So we've kind of gone a little bit straight where there wasn't, because this thing here, when we put this on was here, but now I've moved it across to here, that kind of dipped. So I don't weld in that dip, I push it over so it gets the nice curve, weld the seam up, and then when I take it away, it will still be there. This is why this bit takes ages, because you have to be really careful that you don't weld in and there's a load of sheet that you don't weld in like a mistake. So, and that's all I know, that's what I'm doing today. But I'm going to get this stitched in. It's cup of tea time. Ooh. Okay then people, there we are. It's a pretty good 2 weeks, the first few weeks or whatever it's been of January. Where you see this, you're probably about 3 or 4 days behind where the actual progress is. We've got a back wall, we've got a roof. Once I've got the little bit of wall that goes around where the car comes out, and then I've sorted out like the guttering on the top, because of course everybody's asking, Colin, how are you going to stop it leaking so when it downpours it doesn't come all down the gap? Don't worry, you'll see how that's all going to work soon. Once that's sorted, then we can start doing the covering process and covering it over. And somewhere in between starting to do that and covering it will be the next main channel video. So I'm hoping it won't be too far away. But I might try and see if I can get like the perimeter fence up, because I can't sometimes work like what's the step in the main channel video, and I kind of feel like as well with the thumbnail kind of wants to be like a picture of the whole thing completely with no covers on it, so you can see like the bare steel room just sat there right in front of the house, and then like an arrow pointing to it, something like the last time you'll ever see this or something like that. I don't know. You have to kind of think of these things. It's all part of the YouTube game, if you know what I mean. It's a sad case that the thumbnail and the title are actually more important than the video, but they are. It's the world and the game I play. So somewhere around there would be a main channel video, and then back on here we'll just keep doing stuff. But there'll come a point where I won't show you the inside of it anymore, because I want that to be like a reveal. So I don't know what will happen then, because there's obviously a lot of stuff to do on the interior. The car lift I'm going to make off-site. I'm going to make that in the barn and then install that as like it's kind of like an appliance, so to speak. So obviously we'll get the process of building that, but then you won't see the inside of the room until it's all done. and then it would be like, oh wow, Colin, it's really nice, great choice of carpet. Not putting carpet in it. But anyway, you know what I mean. Anyway, I'm waffling there. Thanks to everyone that bought first mining company t-shirts before Christmas. No, that's an Etnies t-shirt. I've done that again. These ones here, thank you very much. There's a few left. Once they've gone, they'll obviously be gone. They were limited edition. And I've got a great bit of merch coming after that. There is something I've had in my pocket since I was like 15 years old. So anyone that thinks they know that, put that in the comments what that's going to be. But there's basically going to be a furs version of that very item. Anyway, that'll be coming soon. Boom. Thank you very much. Subscribe. See you in the next one.
This is my little brother Jeffrey, and this is his dog Kwee. They just moved back to Pittsburgh from California, and if you've been paying attention, you've probably seen him in a few videos here and there. He's gonna be helping out for a while he figures out the next